Hello, everyone. I must welcome you all to our webinar series, Future You, Set Your Career Compass Right with Experts Insight. And I'm Kalyani Majumdar, your host for this webinar. So today our topic is careers in operations, focusing on how to build your career in operations and supply chain management. So in this webinar, you'll find out about a career in operations. What does it encompass? What are the job opportunities that an operations professional can expect? What is the career progression? What is it like working for Maersk? What are the roles and responsibilities? How to build your profile to stand out from the rest? How does an MBA help in getting your foot in the door? And more questions like this. So, to answer all these questions, we have our speaker, Rick Rohan. He is a capacity operator at AP Moller Maersk. Rick is an alumnus of IIM Indore, and he has hands-on experience of operations, logistics, and supply chain management with one of the largest container shipping companies. So welcome, Rick Rohan, and thank you so much for being here for this session. It's so early because in South Africa, he's logging in from South Africa, and it's 7:30 a.m. at South Africa. So thank you, Rick, for joining us. So let's start from your career trajectory. What made you decide to go for an MBA? And then how did you decide operations as your career path? Yeah.
Hi, morning everyone, and thanks Kalyani for that intro. Before we start, I would like to say that so I'm working in Maersk, but I'll be honest with all the feedback that I'll be giving today, because no one really knows for sure, and no one can give you something in writing that this is going to happen when you do this and something like that. So if you take my career trajectory as an example, my first opening statement for everyone who's attending is that you are in charge of your own career. Yeah, you can listen to people and what they say, but you can always do what you want. So another thing is that being a capacity operator, no one is in the team or anyone probably in my whole OCL. So we call it OCL. It's a Ocean Customer Logistics, which is taking care of operations, has an MBA. So it doesn't really matter. I did my engineering like most of us probably, or most of people in India. And however, I did not do it because I had to, but because I wanted to. I was very fascinated with cars, ships, and stuff like that. So even though I could have joined electronics, which people would just hands-on take it, so they just go into the counseling sessions and just ask if there is a seat free in electronics. If yes, you take it. If no, you look at some other college or some other stream, which is how it works. I don't know, it worked like that in 2009. I'm not sure now, maybe it's the same. But I chose mechanical because I chose engineering only because of my fascination towards engines and ships and stuff like that. So while doing engineering, I was quite fascinated with actual live operations, because I didn't want to sit in office and look at the laptop and do stuff like that. Unfortunately, which is what I'm doing, but I'll come to that. So after engineering, there were two parts. So once I was always fascinated with shipping, so I wanted to become a marine engineer. I could not become a marine engineer right after school, although I got a chance in this marine engineering college in Taratala in Calcutta, because I had eye power, which is a disqualifier for engineering as well as nautical sciences. But there was another option to do a 1-year course after mechanical to go back into the shipping line, but unfortunately that also did not happen because you had to get an operation to get your eye power straight. So I joined Reliance Industries in Jamnagar refinery, which some of you may be knowing as the world's largest, and it is an amazing place to be. And I was exactly seeing what I wanted and loved, because it has all the big machines and stuff and going along. But unfortunately, the life and the work there was, so as to say, quite bad. So I'll be honest with everything I say. It was in the middle of nowhere, but that's not a disqualification. The culture and the stuff that they make trainees do, unfortunately, was not up to the mark. So you can see the machines, but you probably would never work with it until, like, you grow or something. And that was, and the life outside.
Years were you there at?
I was there for 1 year.
Okay, 1 year.
And unfortunately, at that time,
Uh,
it was okay. Let me go all through it,
yeah.
so people would understand why the decision to do an MBA came from my end.
Mhm.
People
Yes.
so I was never interested in doing MBA, but the life there, like I was saying, was pretty bad. So we had a shift for 6 days, which
Mm.
is unfortunate because the world at that time, or at this time, has moved to a 5 day and speak of moving to a 4 day week,
Yeah, 4 days.
where you
Yeah.
in some advanced countries
Yeah.
where you make people work for 6 days and one day of Sunday doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Still there are many Indian companies which make you work for 6 days, which is totally unfortunate. They should pay you overtime anyway. So so that was one of the problems, and the life outside was quite bad. So in most manufacturing industries or factories in India, maybe except some, which, for example, say a Bharat Petroleum refinery in Mumbai, which is in Mumbai, you'd find these refineries or power plants or whatever to be miles away from anything. That is also fine because I loved nature and anything.
Mm.
But uh, after a certain point, you may not want to be there coming from a city, or especially if your options are limited and you don't get enough free time to pursue what you like. So
Right.
another point I'd like to make is that the job is never someone's life. There are interests outside which you must pursue, otherwise you'll fail as a person. And if you're not allowed to do that, if you see MBAs in India working 12 hours a day trying to sell stuff, and uh, even on Saturday, Sunday, where you don't do anything else, that's not ideal. So there were some exit options from that.
Mm.
Okay, so this is where I come to why MBA.
Yeah.
For me, it was an exit option, which is very unfortunate as a reason to do MBA, which you should never do.
Mm.
But anyway, there are many other
I
options.
think,
I'll come
yeah,
to that.
but it's a very honest answer,
Yeah,
because obviously, there are a lot of people, a lot of aspirants out there, who are probably thinking like, yes, I mean, maybe after doing an MBA, it will open up certain doors for
it
them.
does.
Yes.
I'll
So
come to
yeah,
that.
yes, yeah, please, yeah.
It does open up a lot of doors, but it depends all on what you want. If you want to work with a machine and you do an MBA to open up doors, it will never open up for you. It will open the wrong doors.
Right.
um, like I was saying, so it was an exit option. So uh, we were just so few friends and everyone over one weekend, and just there was I think September, I forgot, it was quite some years ago, 2013,
Mm.
that someone was giving a motivational speech to try cat and all that sort
Oh,
of thing. So we just applied.
yeah.
um, I had never intended to do MBA. The good thing about cat is you don't need to know stuff. It's just maths and English.
Mm.
So like me, if you're lucky, you can just go in and get it correct,
Okay.
which is a separate discussion, which is not for this forum, I think.
Yes.
So again, the interviews were difficult because we had to travel from that remote location with a very expensive flights with a peanut of a salary to try and interview for 3 or 4 different colleges. So fortunately, I got through Indore, and it was good. For my 2 years, I would say there's there's no I mean specific thing to learn in MBA. I mean, for example, if you're in a science class, you can learn equations and stuff like that if you're in English class, but no one can define business. So all you learn in your 2 years is networking and confidence and all that sort of thing. It really makes it changes you as a person. Because IIMs are tough, especially the first 3 months when you don't know what's happening, you don't get any sleep, but you'll enjoy. And the hostel life was good. I had never been in a hostel before that, of course. It was excellent. So MBA is not about the studies and the grades. Sometimes it does matter. Of course, you need to pass and also show a good grade in order to get good placements for finance companies, especially, which people might have covered.
Yes.
But there's no point in slogging over it. The better thing that you must do in 2 years is build a good network of friends and grow your confidence and learn to be aware of stuff all around you. um, you can't there are no equations of running a business. You can't learn that, and you also become very confident of the presentations that you have to give, and deadlines and stuff like that. You become very you know uh, used to work in tight pressure environments, which is what companies want, and which is very unfortunate because that's what they use against you. So anyway, once did so there's an internship phase. okay, I'm not very aware, and I did never kept track of which college is better for which is a lot of
Mm.
stuff going on. It doesn't matter, it's up to you. Yeah, of course, you need to it has to be a well known college, so that if you go into an interview, if you say I am whatever, Indore or Shillong, or those are the good ones, of course, the old ones. So I did my internship in Snapdeal. At that time it was booming. Unfortunately, not so much now. And
Mm.
probably one of the reasons which it didn't boom is that it's wasted a lot of money on hiring 250 interns from all over the country and paying them some money and keeping them in a five-star hotel for 2 months,
Mm.
which is absolutely disastrous if you're a business. But it was extremely fun for us,
Yeah.
staying in a in yeah. But that was some intro to e-commerce for 2 months. At that time it was a growing company, so that was my first flavor of a startup. So Snapdeal at that point was a mid-range startup, not exactly new but not grown as well. So final placement, I got placed in ABP, which you might be knowing as a media company, which is
Yeah.
completely different.
Completely different.
So I always wanted to somehow go into a multinational company towards shipping, and of course Maersk, like you mentioned, was like till last month was the biggest, but
Yeah.
somehow
It is,
we
I
have
think,
been
second.
overtaken.
Yeah. Yeah. It's second now. Yeah.
That's fine, because that anyway. So this was a graduate program, so it's very difficult. Okay, let me tell you one thing, and at least in my experience, you
Mm.
can quite change from operations to media to anything a bit early in your career,
Mm.
but after a few set years, it's probably a somewhat more difficult. And again, after you become maybe a CEO, it's difficult. It doesn't matter if you're CEO of Google or CEO of Maersk. It's
Mm.
easy to shift at that position,
Mm.
but in the middle position, it's a bit challenging, because if you want to apply for a middle position job,
Correct.
people expect that you know something about that industry,
Mm.
and also your experience of the industry so far has been will go to waste if you join something new. So if you it's better to shift within maybe the first 2 3 years in a career path that you want. And so
Post MBA.
that's where this
Post
sort of
MBA.
videos,
Right.
post
Post
MBA, yes.
post MBA. Yeah.
And pre MBA, I would say that it's better to do an MBA after 2 or 3 years of experience. Freshers doesn't make sense,
So how
because it teaches.
exactly, but how exactly did this happen? The capacity operator at
So
Merck's. So yeah, so how
so
exactly
before
did
that also there was some role. So I applied for Damco at that time, which was a part of Maersk,
okay.
which currently the it has been absorbed into Maersk, of course. So it was a graduate program, so which
Okay.
became which made it easy to change from media to operations. So the graduate program, many multinational companies actually have a graduate program. Not sure now because of COVID if they continue it. So it's takes people from all over the world, and you're also you can easily shift roles within the company. So they try to give you experience of every role for 1 year. So I had two roles in 2 years, which were completely different. One was regarding a business controller role, which basically looks into finances and stuff like that. It's basically a control function.
Yeah.
And then I became a local services manager, and then also a team lead in supply chain management team,
Okay.
which didn't directly deal with supply chain management. It was more around invoices and
Hmm.
stuff like that. It was more a process oriented role. But yeah, you got more exposure to how the supply chain actually. So Damco was one of the biggest companies handling supply chain stuff for foreign companies. So there's nothing intra India being done by Maersk or Damco.
Right.
We don't do that.
Hmm.
It's all exports or imports.
Okay.
So you might be knowing that all the big companies in the West, Walmart and H&M and stuff like that. If you walk into any company, any supermarket in the West,
Hmm.
if you pick up any shirt or anything, that will be made in India, Bangladesh, or
Yeah. Yeah.
China or something. So the shirts and stuff, the apparel are more in Bangladesh. India is more around furnishings like carpets, rugs, curtains, pillows, and all that sort of thing. So everything in the US or Europe goes from India,
Right.
because so that's the beauty of supply chain. So you bring the raw materials to India, you manufacture it there, and you ship it all the way. It's still cheaper than making in US.
Okay.
So that's what Damco did,
Okay.
and still does, of course, under the name of Maersk.
Hmm.
So in the supply chain role, unfortunately, at the end of it, then you are supposed to find your own way within the company, and
Okay.
you're free to apply to anything at all. all throughout the world.
Okay.
So I of course wanted to be close to shipping operations, coming back to my old love for ships. So I found this option in the OCL. So Maersk is operated by operation centers. Only six are there around the world now.
Mm.
There were eight, but now it's six.
Okay.
So all the shipping in the whole world that is going is controlled by these six clusters or centers that you might say. So I got this job as a capacity operator. Now I should mention that it like I mentioned earlier, that no one in the team probably has an MBA, or it's not a requirement,
Mm.
but it somehow helps to in the job a lot, which I can come to
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how. So it, like I was saying, you're completely in charge of your own career. You at that
Correct.
point you can choose where you want to go, and I decided to come to this because it was my old love, and I would like to continue here as well.
Mm.
Why I love it, I maybe I
Yes.
come
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
it while
So
going through the day in the life.
yeah, yeah. So let's take some questions.
Yeah.
Abhinav has asked, I am a marine engineer and I'm considering MBA in operation management. How beneficial would be for me? Would I have an edge?
Well, of
Yeah.
course you'll have an edge. It
Hmm.
depends. If you're a marine engineer and actually sailing,
Hmm.
there's quite some demand for career paths like that. You'll find a
Okay.
lot of work in terminals.
Okay.
So for example, a terminal is a port. Of course, you might be knowing if you're sailing,
Hmm.
you find work in terminals. You may even find something in Maersk or other shipping companies with something like that. So outside of shipping, okay, I won't lecture on stuff that I'm not
Yeah.
aware of, but yeah, it adds value because like I said, MBA you can't teach business, and a marine engineer, if the person is sailing, would have a lot of experience from handling people and living away from their comfort zone and stuff like that, which you can well use to your advantage.
Okay.
It's all around what you present, how you tell the story. So as a marine engineer, I would be in a ship for 6 months handling difficult situations under tight pressure, and in a ship is of course different nationalities, so you'll already have an experience of multicultural work and stuff like that, so you can always use it to paint a good picture about yourself and go into any operations.
Hmm.
So just before we go into the next one, I just want to
Yeah.
say that operations is there in every industry.
Hmm.
So whether it's shipping or even maybe Google, there is an operations center, maybe software operation, maybe real life operation. So it could be anywhere where you might find a job.
So yeah, so that kind of answers this question. What will be the scope of operations and supply chain management in the coming future? Yeah, so in
It's
the
huge.
coming, it's huge, of course. But the thing is, tell us a little bit more about maybe, okay, let's take one or two more questions. What are exactly the roles and responsibilities of operations as supply chain manager? As in, is it industry agnostic, or is it different from so in a shipping, of course, you can talk about from a shipping point of view, so is it very different from
Yes.
or is it industry agnostic?
I mean, it's different and not different. So, of course, if you're in a Lay's factory, you'd be making chips. If you're in a ship's operation, you'll be running ships. But
Hmm.
ultimately, it boils down to two things. So, you'd have limited number of assets, and you have to make the most out of it.
Okay.
Uh, that's true for everything. You can't be sitting with an idle asset. So you are given something, and you have to make the most of it. And there's improvement, how to make it better, and it's always how to manufacture or how to deliver or how to something with
Hmm.
the least amount of money and least amount of time. It's the same in every industry. No one will be opposite, but
Okay.
it of course differs on the industry that what you're actually doing.
But if someone is interested and is very clear about their career path that they want to go for operations, what kind of, and if they're sitting for an interview, what kind of questions can they expect? Are they already expecting that, okay, what if the person is a fresher? And then the other thing, and has an MBA. And what about the other person, who has an MBA and maybe some experience, maybe in, like you said,
Mm.
2 years of marketing and sales and marketing, but would like to get into operations. So, what kind of interview questions are there? What kind of questions are there are being asked? Uh,
So I never sat for an operations interview. Like I said, my
hmm,
interview in Damco was more general because it was a
correct.
graduate program,
Hmm,
which is an entry point. But
hmm,
yeah, if so freshers at my time in IIM freshers were not invited for operations role. So
Okay.
for operations, you'd need some kind of work experience. So freshers, that's why I would never recommend to do an MBA with a fresher, because it's just study, 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 and suddenly being thrown
Correct.
under the bus, as you might say.
Right.
Because you have to have some amount of work experience to understand how to run a business, whether it's an entry level or doesn't matter. Then the operations company would generally prefer someone with at least 2 years, and then it doesn't matter what your background is. If you're selected for the interview, you can go in, and obviously no one is going to ask you how to run a machine or what's the voltage of something. They're
Mm,
going to ask you more generic questions, because
yeah.
I mean, that's a starting point. If you're applying for an experience position. So if you're applying after job, like if I try to apply now to another shipping company, they will ask me shipping questions. But
Okay.
at the start of it, they will never ask you stuff
Okay.
like that. They'll ask you, why do you want to go into operations? Why you know it's tough? How will you improve processes? How will you live with such a deadline oriented work culture and stuff like that?
Okay.
Maybe something about your pre-experience as well. How did you, and the questions that come up is, how did you handle it? Give an example of a situation which is difficult. Give an example of a situation in your previous role where you faced a strict deadline and something wrong happened. How did you deal with this? Stuff like that is something that will be asked.
Okay. So, but if someone has been working in some other field and is now would like to have
Obviously, the first question you'd ask is, why do you want to
why?
change, right?
Correct. But the
And
thing
then you
is,
have to
how
come up with
will
a
they
good answer.
show? Yeah, how will they show their experience in operations? Like, if after 2 years of marketing and sales or finance, how do they jump into operations if they have no work experience in operations? Then will they?
So if this is after MBA, it will be
Yeah,
difficult.
it
Like
will.
I said, after MBA, within 3 years, you have to do your shifts. Within 3 years, you still have a point, right? Because
Right.
maybe you went into finance in marketing and you find that
Mhm.
it's not your cup of tea. No one can
Mm.
prepare for, unless you work or
Yeah.
actually in that environment, you can't say. So that's a very strong point, that I actually have worked here and it's probably not my cup of tea. And operations, I have heard this I would want to be hard. So another point I'd like to make here is that marketing may be glamorous and sales and stuff, but if you sell stuff, if you market stuff, if no one is making that thing,
Mm.
there's nothing is going to be sold.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
operations is like the heart of, if operations stops, you can market all you want, you'll never sell anything.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
that's the thing, being at the heart of company, and you feel the importance, right? You feel like you're the boss.
Mm.
So especially in shipping, right here, you can go do whatever you want, because that's
Correct.
the thing. So you can use that angle to your advantage. Like, I want to be at the heart. I'm done with I tried marketing is nice, I love it, but it's not my cup of tea. I'm not very comfortable there. I would like to do the real stuff and something like that. You can always use that.
Uh,
And yeah,
yeah.
another point
Yeah. Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
so even in, if you're in finance and stuff like that, you might always have a knack for improving stuff. So
Yeah.
even in operations, you can always go. And MBA is all about intelligent minds, right? It's not, don't have to be like uh, fully knowledgeable about something. You just have to have an intelligent mind. You can go around the processes and find out errors or stuff that is being done wrong, or stuff that can be improved, which is called continuous improvement. And there is a role for that in many companies. So
Okay.
that also can be used.
So where would you say a person, most of our attendees are MBA aspirants. So obviously, they are preparing for CAT either, or they have taken CAT this year, last year. So the thing is, what would you say that where should they begin? As in, are you saying that they should mostly, I mean, if they have already completed their bachelor's, would you say that they should be working for 1 or 2 years if they're interested, just to get a feel of operations and then probably do an MBA? Is that a
Yeah,
better?
okay.
Yeah,
So again, let me be honest here. It's extremely difficult to say what you want in life unless you do that. You
correct.
can see the glamour from outside of investment banking, of marketing, of operations, but unless you work, you can never say. So as a fresher, you cannot say I want to go into operations and then I'll figure out it's that's the disconnect. That's why maybe 90% of people are not satisfied in their jobs. So
Correct.
okay, freshers are good for finance, because finance and investment banking and stuff, they just need your mental maths ability, like very
Uh,
strong. So
right.
you don't need to have worked anywhere. It's
Mm,
thing.
mm,
Operations, you'd need to have some experience, like I said, of working in some company or industry.
mm.
So again, just keep speaking to people like me, who are actually working. you can get some flavor of what we do, and maybe if you want to do that in the future, and then you should work. Actually, you should never go into a fresher MBA for operations, which
Right.
you'd probably not get a chance to sit in an operation company in the final placement, because they would not want it. And
Correct.
ultimately you'd be expected to become a leader, a team leader. I mean, manage people,
Hmm.
which is probably very, very, very difficult to do. And if you're a fresher, just imagine you have no work experience and you're asked to lead a team of people who have been doing a job for 20 years, who are,
Hmm.
I mean, in operations there are people like hands-on people, like who are actually running the machines. And if you're a fresher and you go and tell them what to do, they'll not like it, and you'll never succeed. You leave the second day. So
Correct.
you have to have some experience in operations.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Possibilities of foreign offers, or down the line, when can one expect to work in other countries in operations like
It's very difficult to say. It's very difficult to say. It's sort of luck, but yeah. So in shipping,
yeah.
shipping is global. Like, it's probably the most global industry that you may come across. So there are, of course, a lot of opportunities to work abroad.
Hmm.
I'm not so sure about other industries. Also, manufacturing, refinery, those skills are in demand, because in anywhere in Europe, in the West, in more developed countries in Asia as well,
Hmm.
manufacturing core engineering is of course more in demand, because there are millions of IT engineers and software engineers who are trying to find a flight
Hmm.
to the US. You will be blocked there. There are, I would say, good chances in operations, but depends on the industry. Shipping, yes, there are, but again, it's very difficult. In any industry, there will be like 1 million people waiting to board a flight. So you have to do something different, or somehow be there on the right date to get that opportunity out. But yes, there are in operations as well.
Okay. Okay. There are a lot of questions. That's why now I have to take this one.
Yeah,
It's
please
about
go on.
supply chain management. Should one do a master's in supply chain management, like an MBA in supply chain management from an international B school? Will that make more sense, or doing an MBA in operations after having few years of experience in India?
uh if you have money, go for foreign
Okay.
MBA, because
That's okay. Yeah.
it all depends. Now, okay, let's come to this. It all
Yeah.
depends. So outside of India, no one knows what IIM is, right? They'll probably ask another Indian colleague, and they'll say it's one of the most known B schools in the country. But
Okay.
it doesn't, outside India, it doesn't matter if
Mm.
you're going for a job abroad. They don't care what IIM is. But if you have the money, you can go for, of course, an international thing. But I would probably not recommend doing it in supply chain. Operations is a more wide thing. If you have an MBA in operations, you can always go into supply chain, but probably not the other way around, because it becomes too specialized. um, for a foreign B school, actually, what I've seen in India, if you mention I've done my MBA from, say, UK,
Hmm.
they'll jump on it, even if it's the lowest graded school in UK, right? Because
Okay.
no one, again, it's the same thing here as well. No one knows how that school is rated there.
Correct.
But yeah, the experience would be good, right? Working with international students and all that. So if you have the money, go for it. But if you have to take a loan, I would not suggest it. Don't take a 1 crore loan to go abroad and then work your ass for 10 years to pay that off. That's not ideal.
Yeah. Okay.
Better do it in India.
Okay. Can you please tell a bit more about your graduate program through which you made it to Maersk? It seems like an MBA
Okay.
is not needed altogether for this graduate program.
That's a very interesting
Yeah.
program, actually. I would like to speak about that for
Yes.
everyone aspiring.
Yeah.
Uh, so like I said, many international companies have a graduate. I mean, of course, all companies have a graduate program. So when you start after engineering, you'd probably be a graduate engineer trainee or something like that. Or after MBA, you'll be a management trainee. But for international companies like Maersk, and there are some other companies which I don't remember now, which have the graduate program, which takes in people from all over the world,
Okay.
and they put you together doing something, which is exceptionally the best possible thing that you can
Okay.
do after MBA. Because, like I said, so how it worked for Maersk at that time. So now it's been suspended due to COVID. Maybe open
Okay.
up again
Hmm.
next year or something like that. It's been suspended for 3 years now, unfortunately. But yeah, so what you do is they select the best candidates from each country,
Hmm.
and we had a pool of like around 52 people from all over the world. So there were like four of us from India,
Hmm.
10 of them from China, and all over, like literally all over the world. So we do, of course, work in our own country, in our own roles, which is a real job. I mean,
Okay.
if you can be fired if you don't do your job. It's not like you just sit there and you are training. It's a real job, but there were supposed to be 4 modules abroad, right? Where all of these 50 people come together and they bring some experts to speak on some topic. Again, the topics never mattered. They were like trivial. The thing that mattered is speaking to people from 50 different nationalities. Not 50, I would say it was around 20, 25. There were 3 4 people from each country, maybe one from some. So 20 different nationalities, and learning about their culture, what they eat, what they do, what their holidays. Just the best experience I could have ever had. So we had 3 modules, of course. The fourth one was cancelled due to COVID, unfortunately, but it gives you a lot of exposure. And then back in your country, you can, of course, switch roles after 1 year, because they'll force you to do that. They want you to try it. So there are graduate, you should look around for graduate programs of all the big multinational companies and try to apply for it. That is one of, because that gives you a flavor of what you want to do. So you can work 1 year in customer service, 1 year in operations, 1 year, maybe 2 years, and then decide.
Okay. So now let's get back to your capacity operator. Like, what exactly are the roles and responsibilities at Maersk?
Oh,
And also
yeah.
how a typical day is. And then, we'll talk about the core skills required.
Okay,
So
sure.
first, yeah, the
So
capacity operator.
uh, as a capacity operator, I do exactly what the name says. I am in charge of capacity.
Capacity.
So uh, Maersk is huge. We have maybe 700 owned ships sailing all over the world, and every 6 minutes a ship is berthing somewhere in the world. So we are in charge of Africa. Africa, as you know, of course, is controlled from Cape Town, and it's the smallest region in terms of the volumes of ships, but
Okay.
it's the most difficult and challenging region because Africa. I'll come to that.
Hmm.
Probably if you're sitting in Singapore handling Asia Pacific, you'd handle like okay, like the ship you were mentioning, Emma Maersk, that
Yes.
can carry 15,000 containers. You've probably seen a container on the road saying Maersk going about in a
Yes.
truck. 15,000 of those containers can fit into one ship. And if you're sitting in Singapore, you'll work with that ship coming in today morning and leaving tomorrow afternoon and having done 20,000 moves. You could just go and watch some videos. You'll find it. I'll maybe
Yeah.
share one video
Mm-hmm.
which I saw when I was young about life at sea, which is, and then I decided to become a marine engineer, which unfortunately didn't happen. So, but Africa, in terms of that, is like half the scale, but 10 times 100 times more difficult, because in Singapore you have everything is automatic, right? You don't even, the trucks go in or gates open automatically. And in Africa, some of the ports is not that. There are no cranes, there are nothing, there is no, containers get lost. So we wait for a day and we ask the people why didn't it load. It say that couldn't find the container, stuff like that. So if you want to be in Maersk Line operation, Africa is the place to be, because it's so challenging. Now what a capacity operator does is, I'm in charge of capacity. So a ship has a certain defined capacity, like I said. The big ones have 20,000 containers and 15, and we work with smaller ones, 2,000, 4,000, 5,000, because the ports are not deep enough. And you are in charge of what goes in that ship. So of course they are not running light, right? A ship in today's date, a medium ship costs $100,000 per day to rent. So if you want to rent a ship for a day, you'll have to pay $100,000. It's a small one, excluding fuel, excluding salaries of the captains and the engineers.
Right.
So you not want to sail it light. If you sail it light, it's just waste. So you need to sail the ship full, and there are containers to do that. So, and you are in charge of what goes on, what does not go on, what you load, what you not load, and all that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And it's a 24/7 job. So if I didn't like it right now, I'll be very sad about my job. Because I love it, I'm very happy, because it's 24/7. In Saturday, Sunday, all night,
Okay.
operations never stop. You always, someone will ask you some problem, and some problem is always going on somewhere. So we have a team of marine, cargo, capacity, and equipment, all four of, I think there are around 80 of us
Okay.
is in Cape Town, and some more 50 60 of them in the locations all around Africa. And 150 160 of us are handling the entire operation, and it's just crazy. It just goes on night and day.
Okay.
It's excellent. And if you ask me about a day,
Huh.
so of course although it's 24/7, we do have a defined timing. It's general shift, like you say, 9 to 6. It's not. It's like 8 to 5, whatever. That doesn't matter. So once you go in, and the work environment is excellent, I would say, which is another honest opinion about South Africa as a working environment. It's multicultural and extremely diverse. It is way, way, way more diverse than any of the other countries that you might find, and that makes it so challenging. It's so much fun. So you go in the morning, and of course, first thing you do is check what happened last night, and something would have happened, right? Something would have missed, and some with very few days that you find something didn't happen, and then you try to fix that. Then you have your morning cross functional meeting, which is probably the most important meeting in the day, because a whole center comes up, and we all discuss what happened wrong, what we can do, what ships, and then during the day you have meetings and stuff like that. You do work, you select, you reroute shipments, you find best routes, and it's just amazing. I mean, I just love it, because at this point I'm talking to you, I know at the background 5 of my ships are working somewhere doing something that I planned, and they'll sail out, and we speak to the captains as well. We call them up, we all speak to them about, and there are challenges in Africa, right? There is a place called Gulf of Guinea where there are terrorists. I mean, not terrorists, like pirates,
Yeah.
not Jack Sparrow type pirates. We are good, but actual pirates with guns who.
Yeah.
And one morning you might come, and the meeting says that one of our ships, and it happened recently, has been taken over by pirates, and the crew has been taken hostage. What do we do? And it's unfortunate. It's very sad
That's
for the
one of
people
those
working. That's why.
challenging. Is that one of those challenging
Yes.
you have had?
Yes, and you have planned everything. Your ships are working, and the pirates come and take the crew hostage, which is very bad for the crew. Of course, the company does everything in our power to get them back home safe and sound, and whether it's to pay some money to the terrorist or by international whatever.
Yeah.
But then you in your day, your job is to take care of those sort of things. Then there are COVID cases recently. So a ship just outside sitting, so I can see the sea from where I'm sitting, from my office actually. So you see a ship sitting there waiting to come in, and the next day you hear there's someone on board with a COVID case, and then she has to go back. And so that's how a day looks like. Well, of course, we are sometimes on duty on the weekends. Not this weekend. I'm not on duty this weekend, and also at night. So you have to keep your phone on 24/7. So like I said, if you don't enjoy this, you will not like this life. If you don't like what you're doing in operations, you will not like it. If you like it, you'll enjoy it like me. But yeah, that's about it.
Let's talk about some core skills. What do you think? Maybe can you give us three hard skills that one needs to have, and three soft skills that one needs to have to excel in operations?
Okay, hard skill number one,
Yeah.
maths and logic. I mean,
Mathematics.
you have to know operations is not marketing where you design an advertisement. It is pure something that is happening with numbers. If you say 3 boxes, there are 3 boxes. It's not vague. So you must have a good hold on logic and mathematics to, I mean, you don't have to solve differential equations, but you just have to again, just diverting from the point here, people are always making fun of why do we have to learn differential equations in school, because no one uses them.
Yeah.
It's not about the equations, it's about your brain it's about training your brain to learn something strong so that you can understand. In operations there'll be situations of Excel sheets with numbers and stuff like that. To understand that, you have to have learned difficult mathematics in class or college or wherever it is. So logic is must, maths is must, and I would say that's it. That's enough. You don't need to do
soft
that.
skills.
You don't. Yeah, soft skills is the problem in operations is you have to interact with people. So interact with so I'm like a middleman. I'm sitting here as a middleman between the frontline workers and the top management. So frontline workers will give you numbers and this container didn't load, this draft, this ship engine, this thing, and the management doesn't want to hear that. So you'll have to work as a translator where you take that and make a business case and pass it to the top, apply maybe a monetary value or something to that. So, and the people sitting in the locations or people actually on the shop floors in case of a factory, They are hardcore workers. They're called blue collars, of course, you must be knowing. They're
Yes.
hardcore workers, and they don't speak politely, so as to say.
Mm.
In many locations they are good at their job, but they'll not listen to what I might listen to you if you try to tell them what to do, because you don't know what they're doing.
Correct.
So interaction skills are top important.
Mm.
And how to summarize a lot of data into stuff that the management can read. If you're the boss, if you're the head of OCL, you can't sit 1 hour reading through stuff. You just have 5 minutes to understand and say yes or no. So that's very important as a soft skill, I would say.
Okay. So do you think MBA somehow helped you
Yes,
at
yes.
these things? Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. Like, because these are the things that, basically, you
These
study
are the things, like I
conversation.
was mentioning at the beginning.
Yeah.
MBA doesn't teach you equations and stuff.
Mm.
What it teaches you is
Yeah.
interacting with people, making presentations, being confident in what you do, and of course playing with numbers comes
Correct.
secondary, but that MBA doesn't teach you. That comes from within. You see numbers and you make sense.
Yes.
Another thing that is important for me, although my job is direct operation, I mean direct capacity handling and
Yes.
operations, but you need to see what's coming. That's where MBA helps you, and that's what is expected from
Okay.
someone who has an MBA.
As in,
So even though, yeah,
what do you mean by that? As in?
yeah.
Yeah.
So even though I am actually, say, running a ship working now,
Hmm.
I also have to look at the trades and the economies of the world, right? So what is happening in China now could affect me tomorrow. So
Right.
high level discussions, those are not quantifiable into mass. Those are not actual operations, but those are things that you see coming. So I
Hmm.
might actually go into ships working today and design what is loading, what is I mean coming off.
Hmm.
But the trade patterns in China, suddenly if there's a COVID case in one of the Chinese ports,
Right.
they'll shut down the whole port. That will hit us 2 months later, actually. So these sort of things, because it takes 2 months to ship from China to Africa. It will hit us 2 months later, and what will happen at that point?
Correct.
You have to figure it out now. So those are future forecasting and stuff like that, where you need
And
your
even I
MBA
think,
skills.
even the fact that, maybe there could be a storm coming in or something, and you guys
Yeah,
have
storm is instant.
okay.
Storm is instant. It's called a contingency in our language. So today there is a storm.
Hmm.
Ships are all stopped. What do you do tomorrow? That
So
is
what is
also,
the
yes, of
tomorrow?
course.
Yeah,
What do you do
that's
tomorrow?
again.
What do you do in one week? When the
Correct.
Suez Canal was stopped, if you
Yes,
remember all
yes,
the
yeah,
fun,
yeah, and
the whole world,
yes,
the ship, yeah, it was stuck.
yeah,
Fortunately, it was not our ship,
okay.
but that was a contingency. You have to take immediate action. Whole route, everything
Right.
stopped. Our ships were all stopped, because, and then you have to take immediate action to counter it.
Hmm.
But something, a trade pattern. So suddenly today, for
Yes.
example, US government decides to pay every citizen $1,000 as a Christmas gift. What
Correct.
that will do is the citizens will go and start buying stuff,
Fine.
and China instantly will start producing more. So these sort of things you learn from economics and MBA, and
Yes.
things to watch out for, which is also very interesting.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So, okay, and also I think in operations you need to be a hands-on person, right? You need to be on the floor, so you need to be you should be ready to basically pull up your sleeves and do what.
100%, yes.
Yeah.
If you're in a factory,
Hmm.
there will be an AC room somewhere, but you
You'll
can't
be just
learn operation.
walking around with
You have to
people.
go into the field. If you are in shipping, we have to go into the terminals and see what's happening. Unfortunately, like you were asking, we're gone on board a ship. It's part of the uh, program of going into a ship, but again, and very unfortunately, it is stopped due to COVID. So maybe I'm hopeful that this year, if the relaxations are released, then maybe we'll go on board. But you have to go into the terminal and look at it. You can't plan operations by looking at a Excel sheet or something like that.
Correct. Okay, so let's take few questions. Okay, since we were talking about if it is if operations is industry agnostic or not, can I switch from FMCG to automotive or semiconductor industry after a few years of post MBA work experience?
Well, because I have no prior knowledge of any of those industries, but overall, I can say yes, of course. If you're in a supply chain, even our operations, a semiconductor and FMCG would basically have like the similar sort of things where you have to optimize assets and stuff like that. So definitely you can switch. And supply chain works for all, right? It's Amazon or maybe Coca-Cola or Lay's or something. You have to get stuff from A to B, so it's very easy to do that post MBA.
Okay. I'm a mechanical engineer. Is it necessary to have a job experience in core mechanical industry for operations, or we can have experience in tech companies like TCS?
Well, to be honest about this question, if you're a mechanical engineer, why would you want to go into TCS and look at computers? Go and look at engines and run engines for some time. But having said that, that was a blunt answer. Yes, your experience in core mechanical sector would help a lot because that's operations, right? And if you go into operations, but even if you work in software or something like that, it should be fine. Like I said, ultimately you are supposed to be leading a team or something and doing improvements and stuff. For that you need your mental math skills and work experience of having worked with different sort of people, so that is also there in TCS, right? So any work experience is fine, but again, should better go into a factory and work there.
Yes. So can a non-engineer go for operations management?
A bit of a difficult question, but yes, I think of course you can. There's, like I said, MBA is like a stepping stone. It's easier to do that. If, if you have the right skills, even if you are an English graduate, it's
Hmm.
fine. You learn how to handle people in MBA and basic mathematics. And of course, if you are good in mathematics only, then you'd want to go into, I mean, mathematics and logic, right? Then you want to go into operations. If you don't, then you'd never want to go in the first place anyway. But if you want to, definitely yes, of course, why not?
Is it easier to move from operations to consulting? Is it possible? Like, can they become consultant or
Um, I'm not too sure, so I'll not give you
okay, okay.
like a false answer. But yeah, of course, it makes sense, right? If I'm sitting in a consulting firm and I want to consult into an operations
Hmm,
industry, I'll not definitely call someone from software industry. So then you can go into operations consulting.
correct.
It should be easy.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
So I've worked as maintenance engineer apart from manufacturing industry. Which other industries will help me to grow?
Maintenance engineer
Maintenance
apart.
engineer and then manufacturing industry as well.
Yeah, it's fine. That's what I was doing, right? So,
Oh,
manufacturing, maintenance engineer. If you do MBA, you can of course switch to finance, switch to anything you want. But coming to operations, you can again go back to a manufacturing
okay.
sector or a shipping or any other supply chain thing. So
Hmm,
it's not exactly like a continuation. MBA changes everything, but it's just
okay.
a base push that you have from your previous experience that helps you.
Okay. Uh, but can you tell us a little bit about where exactly one can begin? As in, what's the entry level at operations, and within the same organization, how how high can one go? What's the like the senior leadership positions and all that and beyond?
Well, if you speak of post MBA, for example, where I am currently,
Yeah.
the natural career progression would be from the hands-on operator to the team leader, right?
Okay.
And then you can move around anywhere. There's a lot of flexibility, at least in Maersk, I would say. I don't know about other companies,
Mm-hmm.
but in Maersk, there's a lot of flexibility because, like I said, operations is the heart of any organization. If you
Okay.
don't make it, you can't sell it. So you'd be a prized, I mean, person in anything.
Mm.
If you know what is being manufactured, you can easily go into finance and then look at the. I know many people in my organization who were previously operational, like now working in finance or
Mm.
general management as a leader. So you can grow as leaders. Maybe some of the head of OCLs. So my head of previous head, he started in operations, of course.
Okay.
To be head of a head or leader of like an operations organization, you need to know operations. So it's best, I would rather choose a candidate coming from operations than a marketing guy for the head. So it's very good progression if you want.
Mm. And also probably, because you already know all the challenges that happen in the supply chain and in operations, you know how
You're
to
in the right
find
place to
solutions. Yeah, you know how to find
solve those
solutions
things.
as well. Correct. So yeah, it's a great way to get into leadership
Mm.
position. I saw quite a few questions about this. If we do an MBA abroad, then is experience required? Actually,
Yes.
for all of you attendees, if you are planning to do an MBA from any of the international B schools, it's always preferable, and they also give you a higher preference if you have 5 to 7 years of experience in that particular field, because they'll be asking a lot of questions from that particular field, and why you want to do an MBA now to enhance your career and to a leadership position. So they actually prefer that people should be coming from with experience. So yeah, so
I
please
mean,
feedback.
MBA is something which teaches you to run the business. So many
Correct. Yeah,
courses in
you should
MBA
know
you'll
how
find
to. You
you
should
discuss
know
in
how to.
class.
Correct.
I mean, stuff about your work experience, right? Like a situation in job, and the freshers are just sitting biting their hands. So
Exactly.
I would never recommend. I mean, foreign B schools will never take you if you're a fresher. It doesn't make sense.
Anything we do, anything before MBA to boost our profile for MBA in operation?
Just have a good work experience.
Okay, good
That's
work
fine.
experience. Okay, okay. So now again, getting back to your job as a capacity operator. So can you tell us about one challenging situation that you faced at Maersk, and how did you overcome it? Maybe not the pirate thing, maybe something else, which is more like a regular challenging situation that happens. And
I mean, one of the challenges,
hmm,
some kind of challenging situation every day. Like I said, a contingency. It could be weather. It could be port breakdown, strikes. There are a lot of strikes happening in Africa ports, and the workers just stop working. But the most challenging thing that you'd probably face in a supply chain is a lead time, which basically means, I'm not sure if people have heard of something called the beer game or something. You learn it in MBA, or maybe you can just go and have a look at it. The thing is that the lead time is, like I was saying, what happens in China today will affect you 2 months later and stuff like that. So if you're in import and export, and you place an order now, it will come to you months later, and in this 2 months, if something happens to your shop, your demand decreases and stuff like that, then you'll be sitting with a huge stock of something that you can't sell. So
correct.
this is a very big challenge that we face every day, or yeah, every day at work. So what is coming in to Africa, of course, must be taken out. You can't have boxes sitting here
Hmm,
in some way. And suddenly, when everything is going well, someone will come and tell you that we don't need this now. And you're all set to do something, and then someone says that we don't need these boxes now. Then you're scrambling, and
yeah,
then you have to, because every day you store something in Africa, you pay money and stuff like that. So then you have to bring the whole team together, contingency meetings and stuff. It just happened last week. Contingency meeting about what we are going to do. Then we push back to the other area, saying, and that's very challenging because of the lead time, like I said.
correct. So yeah, okay. More questions. Can you share your learning experience in your current job?
It's very broad, right?
Yeah,
The biggest learning, like I said, is I can't give you operations learning because those are textbook stuff. Uh, you are in charge of what you do, so
hmm,
just go for it. So I wanted to go into shipping, and then everything was quite open, and I somehow went back and then applied to a capacity operator role without knowing anything about shipping operations at that point, because I was handling invoicing and stuff like that. But because I was able to at least in my interview show that I'm interested. So
yeah,
as a interviewer or as a manager looking to recruit, I would rather recruit someone who loves someone who looks interested or loves something, because that person will do anything to learn it, right? Rather than someone who's not interested but knows a lot. So
correct.
that's where I went right. So my manager currently, who is very logical and practical, I must say,
Hmm,
uh, had looked at my interest rather than my experience, and saw that this person would definitely try to learn everything. So if you're interested in something, just go for it. Doesn't matter if you don't have, if you interested, yeah, of course, within a certainly after 5 years or after 10 years,
correct.
it'll be difficult. Within the first 3 years, you need to figure out a sort of general direction. You can't figure out your life in 3 years, but
Hmm,
sort of general direction is, this is what I want to do, and give all your resources for that. If you come across a perfect good leader, good manager, they
hmm,
will definitely recruit you for your learning, for they want to learn.
okay. For operations and SCM roles, do we always have to be on the field or manufacturing unit?
No, definitely not. Yeah, if you're a worker, a blue collar worker, but I'm assuming you're asking for MBA roles.
Yeah.
So MBA roles is more about control.
Hmm,
So there will be machines and people doing the work. You are on top, sitting, controlling and finding ways to optimize, or reducing cost or making the more out of it. But yes, if you can't run it from an AC office, right? You'll have to visit, but the job is not to stay there forever or something. You'll be in an office, but you need to go and visit to see what is actually happening to be able to take these decisions from your office.
Okay. So I've worked as a design engineer for crane drives for loading purposes. So which sector would be best for me in MBA operations? Design
It's
engineer.
very difficult to say, because you'll not be designing
Specific.
stuff after MBA.
Hmm.
But because you are a design engineer in a crane
Hmm.
manufacturing stuff, you'll have quite a lot of idea about cranes and stuff. So you can try for terminals where cranes are used,
Hmm.
but it's not a limiting factor. You can go anywhere. If anywhere in the operations, your experience would help, not what it actually you did.
Hmm. Do ops manager become CXOs?
Of course, of course. Like I was saying, our
Yes.
head of OCL was from operations,
Okay.
and then he went on to become a director. Of course, I mean, who would you rather have on your CXO panel? A guy who knows operations or a guy who likes
Hmm.
to market stuff?
Correct.
Never. Don't take me wrong. I'm not against marketing. I'm just giving an example.
Correct.
I mean, if I was a boss, I would rather have the guy from operations sitting there.
Okay. All right. Okay. Before we wrap up, do you have any particular any suggestion for our MBA aspirants right now? What should they be doing? Of course, one thing, of course, you've made it very clear that one should have work experience so that they get the feel of that particular industry. So that is one. But anything else that they can be doing right now before they take CAT
Um,
MBA?
Firstly, I think hopefully every one of you are aware why you are trying to do MBA.
Okay.
It's not just because my neighbor is doing it or just because I have to. If you're quite clear, then go for it, and don't be disappointed if you don't get the best school in CAT. You can of course try again, and if not, just go for any. Those 2 years will shape you as a person. I mean, it just changes you completely. So more than the studies, learn to be, I mean, what do you call that, confident enough to present in front of difficult people who will ask you a lot of questions,
Right.
and make friends, network, and enjoy your 2 years. That's all. Of course, learn on the side,
Mm.
but again, after MBA it helps. So it helps you change, like I said, but within the first few years. Like if you're a mechanical engineer or something, you can probably have a sort of limited field. We can work in a factory, or we can maybe sometimes work in software as a designer or something like that. But MBA, you have a broad horizon, and but you have to make your decision. You can't make your decision by sitting there. Within 1 or 2 years of working, or within 3, max maybe 4 years, should set a general direction to your career, that I want to do this, and then try everything to go into that direction, and then definitely you'll succeed. And once you're again up in a higher position, then you can, of course, like I said, switch to different industries. But for initially, you need to figure out what you want to do.
Correct. Okay, that's all we have time for. In case you have very interesting questions, then you can just send it to me, or you can find him on LinkedIn and you can ask him questions and he'll be happy to answer. I hope you're fine with that, Rick. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that's all we have for this session. Thank you, Rick, Rohan. Thank you for taking the session and being so honest with your answers. I hope this would be really helpful for our MBA aspirants to take decisions for their careers. Thank you. Thank you, Rick. And thank you, all of you attendees.
Bye bye.